Here we are on the front of our Jayco Alante. We're going to do a tutorial on our unit on how everything works. Just like the technician would give you on the date of delivery, we're going to walk through, show you where everything is and how you would operate it, a few tips and tricks along the way. If you want a deeper dive on some of these components as well as other components, you can find that on our Great American RV YouTube channel under the playlist Haps Helpful Hacks. Please support the channel, click like, subscribe, share it with your friends, let us know you're there, and please feel free to comment, ask questions as well. We're going to start here in the front. Of course, we push these little bottom buttons right here that'll flip our latches to gain access to the hood. We'll go ahead and give you a closer look here. And we'll notice we have our 12-volt battery. That is strictly for the chassis, meaning our engine, and our house batteries that operate the interior stuff, that is going to be on a separate circuit. We'll show you where that is in a little while. Of course, we have our radiator fluid, our oil dipstick, our air filter right there, brake fluid, all the same kind of things that you would find under the hood of your own vehicle. Regular maintenance is going to be required on this, and it is considered customer responsibility, so make sure we're taking care of that as a priority. Here we have our first compartment, which is just small storage. We have our generator in this one, have our exhaust coming out here at the bottom. Start stop button, you're going to have the same thing on the interior of your unit. And whenever we operate our generator, we want to make sure we hold down that stop button. That primes the generator, it kicks fuel pump on, pressurizes for the fuel system, and then we go ahead and crank it. On this system, you can hold it down, light's going to come on, hold it down for 10-15 seconds, if that, and then go ahead and crank it up. Take a little bit longer in colder weather sometimes. We always want to make sure that this lid stays on here when we're operating that generator so the airflow is proper in order to cool it. But if we take it off, one thing that we'll notice to the left of that switch is we have a 30 amp breaker right here. Now, if we were ever running our generator and all of a sudden we don't have 110 on the inside, I want to come pull the cover off and see if this breaker is tripped. If it is, then that's why we're not getting 110 power, might have overamped it. Just click it off and click it back on, and that should go ahead and bring everything back up and running. Now, before we do that, we may want to do something like turn our AC system and all that stuff off so it's not an immediate surge to our generator. There's regular maintenance that needs to be done on this as far as changing the oil, air filter, all that stuff. Make sure we're staying on top of that. Right behind that one, we do have pass-through storage right here. We have our Dometic tanked water heater right here, both electric and propane operated. And then we also have our Dometic furnace right there. And then this one right here is our black and gray tanks. We'll give you a better look at that port right there. So here's our port. We'll notice that it sticks straight out. This is turnable. We go ahead and we can point it down and run our hose down underneath here. This compartment door right here is mainly so we can have access to our gates right here. We want to turn it up, we can go ahead and turn it up. So we can see identified black tank, gray tank right there. And so what goes into our black and gray tank? Our gray tank is just shower water. Shower and sink. Our black tank is sewage from our toilet. So we take our hose, we connect it, and we run it over to our port at the campsite, or if we have to hold it until we get to a dump station, we do that. So gray tank, if we have the port at the site, we can leave that open all the time, let it drain out. That shower is going to fill up quicker than any other tank, so you can just let it flow out, no big deal. Our black tank, however, we need to leave that valve closed till we're ready to dump. When we are ready to dump, pull that lever, let everything drain out the hose. We're going to have a black tank flush on our system we'll talk about in a little while. And we hook our water hose up to that black tank flush. It supplies water to a jet on the other side of that tank. It pushes debris down to this valve and helps flush out that system. When we're satisfied, we turn off that black tank flush. Then we close our black tank valve right here. And then we go on the inside, hold that pedal down on the toilet, add several gallons of fresh, clean water, drop our chemicals in, and we're good to go. The water that's left in there help clean that tank a little bit, and the chemicals, of course, degrade any sewage that's left in there. Now, we always want to keep water in that tank system because, of course, we're putting solids in there, toilet paper, so on and so forth. We never want that stuff to solidify. It'll cause some issues for you later. There are other videos on black tank flush. We have it in the Helpful Hacks section. A few pro tips. It's how the manufacturer suggests to do it. We've got some other ways to do it there in our Haps Helpful Hacks section. Go check it out. This compartment, just storage. This compartment right here, which is our very last one, we have our water fixture hookups and everything else. Now we'll notice down here at the bottom we do have another gray tank, So that is our separate tank system. We have that one separate from our front one. The handle for it is going to be just to the left. It's right here at the end of this wastegate valve. We can open that handle and dump that gray tank, get two hoses together, bring them to a V. They have hookups for that, or that Y pipe, excuse me, and then go into your dump station. Here we have our control center. This is where we'd hook up our water, our black tank flush, all that stuff, as well as our low point drains. We'll take a little closer look and go over the operation, all that stuff right now. All right, so here's our control center. Of course, we have our coax hookup, satellite, and cable from the campground. We also have all of our water fixture options right here. We have a 12-volt water pump. We'll explain what that's for in a little while. A little switch, turn our light on. Quick connect right here for a blue coiled hose. We can have a spray port out here, black tank flush, and then city water connection. So let's go over how all this works. Our city water connection, this is our main port that we're going to use for most of everything on here. We would run our city water line in from the campground, hook it up, and we would actually use city water. So we would turn all our dials to this fixture right here, and that would supply water straight to all of our faucets and everything on the inside. Now, if we don't have a city water port at the campground, of course, we need to fill our unit before we go camping. In order to do that, we would go to power tank fill, go ahead and turn it to this connection right here, have our water hose hooked up at our house. We turn that water hose on. This is going to go straight to that storage tank and fill it up. Now, once we are full, we can go ahead and check on that meter on the inside. We'll show you in a little while as far as how much water we want to put in there. That's up to you. Maybe you're just using it while you travel. You don't need it once you get to the campsite, or you are dry camping somewhere, which means you'll need more. You don't want to add any more weight than what you need. So keep that in mind. The more you put in, the heavier it's going to be. There is a way to drain that. We'll show you that location in a little while. But just keep that in mind. So now we need to get the water out of the tank, right? So now we're going to dry camping. That'll be this setup right here. Then that's where our 12-volt water pump comes in. Kick that switch on, and that will prime our system, supply water to our fixtures. We have another switch for that on the inside. Winterization is when we want to prep our unit for the winter time. That is when our low point drains down here would come in. We open up those drains, and that will drain water out of all of our pipes. And then we would go to our winterization. While we're down here, I'll also mention these are also our drains for our fresh tank system as well. And then we have our filter right here. We have shut-off valves. We shut those valves off. We can open up our filter and change that out. So back to our winterization valves up here. Get you hooked up. We have winterize. Turn it, turn it, turn it, and we are ready to winterize our unit. So we've drained all the water out. We've blown the water out of our system, ready to winterize. We hook a water hose up to this and then run it to our gallon tank of RV antifreeze. We kick on our water pump, and that's going to pull out of that tank of antifreeze and pump it to all of our fixtures on our unit. We turn our faucets on till that RV antifreeze comes out, and we're good to go. Now, there is more information and more detail on that in your owner's manual, as well as videos on our HAPS Helpful Hacks section to check that out. Last one is sanitize, siphon the tank via pump, turn it to here, and that is basically the same thing as winterization, except we're going into the fresh tank. We have a mixture of bleach and water, hook a water hose up to here, run it into there, kick that pump on, and it's going to suck it into the tank. Our black tank flush over here, that is going to be for our dumping station. Remember, we talked about hook the hose up there. It's going to help you flush out that tank. Over to the right, we do have our 30 amp power supply right there. We can run that through the floor here. We put it in, turn it to the right, and you have a little retainer ring. We want to go ahead and tighten that up on there. That way there's no issues with this falling out. We want to plug this in first, then go plug it in on our shore power so we don't have any sparking or any arcing right here at this plug. We also want to make sure our AC systems are off so we don't cause any surges to that appliance. On the rear of our unit, of course, we have our backup camera wired into our dash. We have that backup camera monitor we can see behind us while we're traveling down the road and while we're backing up. We have our receiver hitch right here with our 7-way plug on it to be able to tow a trailer or our car behind us while we're running down the road. One thing I'll mention about the slide out, it is an above floor mount slide out. We do have video on how to override that in the event that something fails on it. It's in that HAPS Helpful Hacks section. Also on the back, we have our factory supply ladder. We do have a fiberglass roof up top. We need to get up, check the sealant on that roof every 60 to 90 days to ensure we have no cracking, peeling, deterioration of that sealant, allowing water entry to our unit. We're also going to have sealant around our trims, our lights, our windows, stuff like that. We need to check all that every 60 to 90 days for the same thing. We find the cracking, peeling, deterioration, want to clean it and reseal over it with proper sealant. This is considered customer maintenance. Owner's manual is going to say 60 to 90 days. Check your sealant, whether you keep it under a cover or not. You need to check that sealant, make sure we're maintaining it properly. Manufacturers aren't going to participate in water leaks due to lack of maintenance. Also back here, we do have caps on either side of the bumper. If you want to store your sewer hose in there, pop them off. You can store it in there as well. On the passenger side of our unit, we do have our 12-volt powered awning with 12-volt powered awning lights. Our awning is mainly a sunshade, and it can tolerate a little bit of rain. We're going to have dew, we're going to have AC runoff, get on there, all those things. If we have a bad storm coming in, high wind, high rain, all that stuff, roll your awning in. Don't take the chance that it will water will accumulate on the top and get torn down, or the wind blowing it, making it a parachute, whatever. You're leaving your camper an extended period of time, roll it in. You're going to end up with an insurance claim otherwise. Anytime we do roll our awning out, we need to pitch it or lean it to the front or the back. Easy to do. Both these awning arms are the same on the front and rear. All you have to do is grab this arm right here, pull it, and now our awning is leaned towards the front. Our water can go ahead and run off of there. We do the same thing in the back, but we only want to do one or the other. We're ready to roll that awning in. Push it up till it's straight. We can roll that awning in. We're ready to go. On our entry door, it does have a shock absorber to go ahead and keep it from slamming that door up against the awning, anything like that. Of course, we have our screen right there as well. We're also going to have our 12-volt powered steps right here. Our steps can either stay out, or we can flip that switch on the inside in, and it will work every time we open and close that door. Now, of course, whenever you turn your ignition on, it is going to override that, and those steps will come in and out automatically. So just keep that in mind. Whenever the ignition is running, those steps do have an override. Here we have more storage in this compartment right here. We're also going to have our Go Power solar system in here as well. So we have solar panels on the roof. We have our controller right there that's going to go ahead and transition that power into charging power for our batteries. Now, speaking of our batteries, in this next compartment here, we do have our house batteries. Pull that lever right there, and we have our house batteries. These are wet cell batteries. We'd have to remove these covers, check the water in them every so often, and make sure that they are above the lead plates on our batteries, and make sure that we are maintaining them properly. Over to the left, we do have an assortment of 12-volt resettable breakers. Some of these are going to be thermal. They will reset on their own if they get too hot due to over amperage. We're going to have some that have a little blue button on them right there, kind of hard to see, but it'll have a little blue button. That is actually to go ahead and test it. You push it and you can see that yellow lever pops out. Those are actual manual resets. So we don't have to push the button. I just did that as an example. You would see that yellow lever tripped out in the event that it was tripped. To the left, that is our battery disconnect. We'll go over that when we hit the inside. All that kind of 12-volt assortment of stuff right there. Over to the right, we have our hydraulic system. That is going to run our leveling jacks. We do have overrides for this system. We'll go over in some of our Helpful Hacks videos that are coming down the line later on. Have our propane tank quick connect hookup over here. This lever would have to be off in order for that quick connect to go on. Then we turn it on for that flow to come out, and same thing to disconnect it, which brings us to our actual propane tank right here. Have our level gauge right here, our bleed off, and of course our on off right here. Above that, we have our outdoor TV and outdoor speakers. Over to the left, we continue down the road. We have our more pass-through storage, and then we have our outdoor kitchen over here. Outdoor kitchen supplies with a sink, hot and cold, and of course a 110 outdoor fridge. Now keep in mind, this outdoor fridge does have a little, it's going to cool, it's going to freeze, it's going to do all that stuff that a fridge and freezer does, and when we unplug it, it is going to defrost. That water can leak out of here and damage any of the components around it. We want to make sure that we wipe that down, air it out, get any moisture out of there whenever we unplug our unit, so we can reduce mold and mildew and the opportunity for it to leak and damage any of our components around it. That is not going to be covered by a manufacturer warranty. That is considered customer maintenance. All right, as we walk into our entry door, we can see all of our switches for our exterior lights, our steps. That's that step switch that I was talking about outside at the entry door. And then of course we have our interior light switch as well. Have our awning in and out to bring that in or out. Accent lighting for around our unit. That's around like our slide outs and stuff like that. And then we have our Go Power Control Center. This is going to actually give you and tell you the voltage and whatnot that we have going from our solar system and that charging voltage for our batteries. Now we also have our battery disconnect here. That's the switch that controls the battery disconnect right by our batteries in that storage compartment. Whenever we store our unit unplugged, we want to go ahead and shut that system off so our 12 volts is saved in those batteries. When we are plugged in at any point, using it, storing it, whatever, want to make sure that switch is on so our battery charging system, which is our converter, is actually charging our battery whenever it's plugged in, and we're getting those babies juiced back up. All right, moving into the driver's seat of our unit, we have our equalizer system, which is our hydraulic leveling system. Really easy to operate. Power them on and hit auto level, and it is going to go to town. Now it will tell you on the side here if we have low voltage, it's not going to work. Excessive slope, meaning that our slope is either too high or too low, whatever, in either direction, it won't be able to level out. Ignition on this system, it means that our ignition needs to be off in order to run it. And then of course our emergency brake, if it is not engaged or engaged, it'll let you know which way it needs to be. Now if we were to manually tweak this system, right now it's in auto level mode. Once it gets to its final position, it's going to do a doo-doo and then shut off. Now if we want to go back and manually adjust any of that, we turn the system on. We can adjust by these arrows right here in the front, back, right, rear, left, wherever, to do minor adjustments in case our door is kind of shifting on us a little bit, all those fun things. When we're ready to retract that system, simple enough, hit all retract and all your jacks are going to come back up. Now one thing I will tell you about your system, is the equalizer system, is whenever you turn your ignition on, you're probably going to hear it beeping at you and some lights flashing. It's perfectly normal. Just power that system up, hit all retract, and then just power it off, and that's going to fix the system, no problem. What it is a set point in this hydraulic system where that jack system does lose a little bit of pressure in it if it sits too long. Like I said, easy resolve is just hit that all retract, everything's going to come back up. That system will stop beeping at you. Over on our dash, of course, we have our lights on, automatic, all that fun stuff, just like in your car. We have our mirror heat, we have our fog lights, accent lights, and we also have our battery boost. Our battery boost is used if our chassis batteries are too low, our engine won't start. We click down on that, and that connects our house batteries to our chassis batteries as a kind of a jumper in order to get things started. It connects those two circuits together for as long as you're holding it down. All right, on our steering wheel, regular cruise control options. Our dash, pretty well the same stuff you're gonna find in a car. TCS, that's traction control system. We can turn that off. Our hazards located right there. Now we have our radio system. We have Bluetooth option. We can go ahead and connect to that. We would go to Bluetooth on our phone, connect, and then we could go ahead and have Bluetooth up through our phone, make phone calls, so on and so forth. Hit our button up top, that'll bring us back to our home screen. We also have our volume up there as well as our skip. If we want to do voice control, we have that switch over on the side for voice assistant through our phone system. And then we have radio Sirius, Sirius XM, and then of course our regular settings. Now of course we're also going to have our backup camera on here, our rear camera, and then our other two cameras are actually in our mirrors. When we activate our blinkers, we're going to have our side cameras right there whenever we're swapping lanes, so it adds some extra safety for our unit. Over to the left, we have more lights for over the top of us. We have some accent lighting around our dashes. We have our generator start and stop, just like outside. You hold down that prime button, so we're just holding stop. Now it's not going to have a light in here, but we just hold it down for about 20-30 seconds, and then we go ahead and kick it, and that generator will start up. We have our shade up and down. That is going to activate our shade there in the front. Just hold it down, shade drops down, push it up, and that shade will go ahead and go up. Your AC controls are going to be just like what we would have in our car. And then around it, of course, we have our desk area right there if we want to do some work in that front area. Our seats are going to turn around as well. They are electric and adjustable. On this driver one, you're going to have to watch that steering wheel right there, adjust it, and then we pull this latch down here at the bottom, back, and then we can move our seat and flip it around like so. Now we can go ahead and have more seating area in the front. Now, anytime you put these seats back, we need to, of course, make sure that our seats are up far enough to where this slide actually clears this area. Now, that goes over everything on our dash. Above our dash and captain's chairs, we do notice we do have another bunk bed area here. Now, you're going to see the seat belt up top. We clip that clip, and now we can go ahead and run our bed system down. Run that system all the way down to it hitches our chairs down here. Then we have our ladder we can add right here and have extra sleeping space. Our adjustable curtains right here on the side. Whenever we store it, we do have a switch here for the light up top. When we store it, we run it up, and then we want to plug that seat belt back in, and that is the safety factor to keep it from falling down on us, and it also shuts down the controls on this system whenever we turn this key off right here. Now, you can hook that key to your keychain, leave it in there, whatever you want. We go ahead and lock that belt in, run it all the way up, and we're good to go. Like I said, put that key on your keychain, whatever you want, keep the kids from fumbling around with it too. Moving down the line, we do have our recliners. Pull that latch, they recline back. All of our recliners are gonna have seat belts in them for travel. We also have our dinette booth. Our dinette booth can drop down into a bed. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. For this to drop down into a bed, we simply lift up, and we're pulling the back hinges out of that plate right there, and then we can take and drop this down, and we would remove our cushions and set it down on this barrier right here, and then take our cushions, put it on top. To put it back, simply lift up, angle it back in until those hinges are locked back in on the back corner. We have our TV up there with our JBL system. That is going to be for our antenna system, our satellite, and our cable for our TV, as well as we have Bluetooth option for our JBL soundbar right there. Now, if we open up this cabinet right here, we're going to see a couple more options up there for coax. We see we have our line 1, line 2 from our roof, so we are pre-wired for our roof satellite if we wish. Down here, we're going to have our antenna boost. That is a button right here that turns that light off and on. That turns your antenna boost on. So if we're searching for antenna channels, we want to make sure that boost is on. If we are searching for cable channels, we want to make sure it's off so it doesn't scramble the feed from the campground coax. Here, this is our Wi-Fi for our WineGuard LTE system. If we want to upgrade to a router system, it's already pre-wired. That will turn that off and on, and we can have Wi-Fi with us wherever we go if we add that extra subscription through that company. We also have our HDMI right here already pre-ran over to that TV. Moving into our kitchen, of course, we have our kitchen sink, our faucet, our microwave 110 powered with our overhood vent to be able to suck any air while we're cooking up in this area. Have our glass cooktop right here. This is just for more counter space. This is also how it needs to be when we travel. When we are cooking, need to flip that glass up. Down here we have our designated knobs for the burners. You turn it to the flame icon, manually crank until it lights. Of course, our propane does need to be on. You also notice the red ring around these knobs. That lets you know the system is on. When it's on, we need to make sure it's lit. If it's not lit, we need to turn it off. Mainly for kids running around that like to play with stuff, it's a good indication to you that system is on. We also have our oven down here at the bottom. Same thing, turn to that flame icon, but we need to pull this knob down while we hit that igniter until it lights. Then once that pilot lights at the bottom, let it run for about 15-20 seconds. Then we pull off that knob, turn it to our desired temperature, and that burner tube should light up. Now, a little key to our propane system, a little thing to know is that we can get air in our system. And that happens when we store a unit, we turn our tanks off, right? Well, you're gonna get air in your system. Perfectly okay, you turn your tank off. just know that this is the fix for it. It can also happen if we run out of propane, we get it refilled, we're gonna have air in that system. To get it out, we just come over here and light our stove. Let it run for about 60 seconds. That is the quickest, easiest way to purge that air out of there. We wanna do that before we light things like our oven or our water heater or our furnace, because the water heater and furnace can go into a fault because there's air in the system. It's trying to light, it's not getting any gas, it'll fault out after so many tries. So keep that in mind. If we're pulling it out of storage or we just got those tanks redone, go ahead and burn that air out of that system by lighting the stove. Here we have our 12 volt Furrion refrigerator controlled by a little control knob right here at the bottom. It goes from off to cold to colder. Then you also have an off-grid option on there too. Off-grid option is going to conserve 12 volt power. If you're boondocking, you're not plugged in, that's the option you want to go to try to conserve that 12 volts. Make your battery last a little bit longer. It doesn't make the compressor work as hard, but it also keeps in mind you are conserving the amount of times you're going in and out of here, so you don't want to go in and out a lot, otherwise your food and stuff isn't going to stay as cold. Important thing to keep in mind is no drip hoses in here, no drain hoses. So that means once you defrost, you're going to have to get all the water, ice, all that stuff out of here, wipe it down real good, let it air out so no mold and mildew. And like we said with the outdoor fridge, no water can leak out and damage our wood components around it, because manufacturer is not going to cover that type of repair. All right, in our hallway, we have our main control center right here. Another generator start stop button, same thing, except this one does have a light, unlike our one on our dash. Hold that stop button down, that light will kick on and let you know that it is ready, and then we can go ahead and start our system. Generator hours are kept up with right here, as well as a monitor on the generator itself. We have our slide out, in and out. For this system, our ignition needs to be off in order to run that slide in and out. Over here we have our meter for our propane, our battery, fresh tank, black tank, and our 2 gray tanks. Tell you what the level of those items are. Now we also have our FLT that is going to be let us know if our fault in our water heater has tripped. That means our LP gas. So if we have a problem with our LP gas system on our water heater, it's going to let us know by lighting up that fault right there. We'll go over a little bit more of that when we get to there. We have our 12 volt water pump right there. If we were to kick that on, that pump is going to indicate that the pump is on. Now once again, we're only going to use that whenever we need to pull from that fresh tank. We don't need to use it when we have city water. If you do hear that pump running, it's perfectly normal. Whenever you shut off your faucet, it should shut off not long after that, just to prime the system. It is on demand. If you hear that pump running all the time, you're sure all of your fixtures are off. You want to check, because that fresh tank may be empty, or you may have a leak in your system and you want to investigate. So turn that off so it doesn't burn up the pump. Down here we have our tank heater, 12 volt mat connected to our tanks, and we would kick that on in extreme weather to keep those tanks from freezing up. Now onto the water heater, LP gas. Remember I said purge the air before we use this. Always make sure that we have water in the tank as well. Make sure your propane is on, kick this on, it is going to light that tank outside. Now if there is in fact a fault with your LP system, it's going to light up right there up top and let you know that that system is at fault. We need to go ahead and investigate, figure out what's wrong. We also have our 110 electric. Same thing, make sure water is in the tank. We can only use this, of course, when we're plugged in. Kick that on, it's going to heat the water that way. If you want to turn both of them on, we can. It's not going to heat it that much faster, but it can heat it up a little bit faster. Down below that, we have our shed system, all right? So we do have a 30 amp service on here, and we have 2 ACs. So how does that work, everybody asks? Well, that works by shedding or pulling away from one system to the next. So we can see not really much to go over here, besides we can change what type of amperage service we're on. So a 15 amp would be if we were plugged into a house connector at our regular 110 outlet at our house. 20 amp, same thing. And then of course 30 amp is the full service that we have on our unit. Now if we scroll, this is going to give you your current amperage draw of everything that's pulling on your 110 system. Now this system will automatically shed on its own. So if you want to use the microwave and both of your ACs are running, it is automatically going to kick off that AC, and you can go ahead and run your microwave with no concern without tripping out over that 30 amp system. Down below that, we have our thermostat for our AC system. This is going to be for the front AC. Pretty simple, left to right. Left is going to be colder, right is going to be warmer, right? We have all our temperature degree marks there. our cool switch all the way to the left. That's going to cool our air. Fan is just going to circulate our air throughout the unit, and then of course off, and then heat will kick on that furnace that we have and heat your entire unit. Now we're going to have another thermostat in the bedroom that's going to work the same way, but it's only going to control that rooftop air. It's not going to control heat. This is the only one that's going to control heat for the entire unit. Our fan auto is going to be that fan turns off and on with our compressor. Our fan on, low and high, is going to run that fan constantly, whether that compressor's on or not. Down below that, a little harder to see from that angle, we have our inverter system. Our inverter system changes 12 volts to 110. So if we're not plugged in somewhere, we want some 110 power, we're going to kick that system on. It's going to draw from our batteries and run smaller appliances that we have throughout our unit. In our bathroom, pretty cut and dry. Of course, we have our shower, right? Hot and cold. You're gonna have an on-off button on that shower head so you can conserve water easily if you're dry camping, trying to conserve the amount of water from your fresh tank that you put into your gray tank, so on and so forth. Do that in between soaping and rinsing off. Just shut the valve off there. You won't have to worry about finding that sweet spot on the handles. Use it if you want. If you don't want to, it's fine. We have our light switch here. We also have our fan switch right there. We have a fan here in the shower. We want to use that when we take a shower, get the heat and humidity out of here, reduce the risk for mold and mildew. Got our toilet right here with a little foot pedal there on the right side to be able to flush it. Very simple system. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind is we're only putting sewage in here, nothing else besides toilet paper and chemicals. As far as sewage is concerned, we're just putting liquids, number one, right? Hit that pedal, flush it, it's gone. Number two is solids and toilet paper, right? We need to fill this bowl about half to 3/4 of the way up so we have enough water in there to actually push those solids down into our black tank. In order to do that, barely push that pedal down right there. That bowl will begin to fill up with water, then you can go ahead and flush. Number three, toilet paper. RV toilet paper only. Don't put any other brand in there. It is not going to deteriorate. You're going to end up with clogs and you're going to wish you didn't. And lastly, our chemicals to help degrade those solids in there, keep things smelling nice and keep our tank smelling clean. One thing to go over with our AC assemblies, like I said, we have them in the front and the rear. Both of them are going to work the same. You're going to have vents on the ends. These are our quick dump vents. When you open them up, you have air forced out of here. When you close them off, you have air forced through your ceiling vents right there. So as far as which one you want to use, that's up to you. They're forced through here, it's going to distribute better throughout the unit. If it's open here, it'll cool this one area off a little bit better. We have filters on each side. We pull these tabs down, we can clean those filters out. That way we're not restricting airflow to our AC. Moving into our bedroom, not much to go over. We have our accent lights over our bedroom. We have our TV up top. We have our other rear AC assembly. And down here below the bed, of course, we have our breaker panel. It's where our 110 breakers are. They're all labeled so we know what everything goes to. We're going to see our GFCI up here at the top. That's going to control the outlets at all of our wet locations. So anytime those outlets get wet, this is likely to trip. If we have too many appliances plugged into them, coffee makers, griddles, so on, blow dryers, all that stuff, it is likely to trip. If it does, just flip it down, reset it, and you should be good to go. If it trips again right away, go unplug some of those items and also check and make sure none of those outlets are wet. Now over here we have our 12 volt panel right here. This is all our 12 volt fuses. We can see they're all labeled. That is where we would go for all of our 12 volt components if we want to troubleshoot and see why some of that stuff isn't working.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.